And here he's going to work around the gas tank, and we're trying to move the camera just to give you guys a better visual and kind of a close-up of how he goes about doing this. A lot of it's explained just through the visual video, but really what he's trying to do is get as much as he can down, and where it kind of bubbles up, he'll come back and finish points later. So he's making some little relief cuts is what they're called, and this will just help so that he's not wrinkling any of the vinyl. And he's trimming it right against the gas tank on the inside of the gas tank, so the actual gas tank door is where he's actually making the cut. He's got a nice steady hand, but feel free to use any tools you need to make your own cuts. And then he's just going to go in and finish after he made that relief cut. And then you'll see him come back and actually finish the part that's on the gas tank where he's lifting it up now. For a lot of these applications, the squeegee is very useful, but when you get inside these grooves and whatnot, even your fingers, as Adam's using, or your thumbs, there are different products you can get to do that, but hands are a great tool. So now what Adam's doing is just kind of peeling that back to make sure he's kind of put all the vinyl down, make sure there's nothing sticking up, and then what he'll do is come back and finish the gas tank. And this is useful for any vehicle that you're working on a gas tank. A lot of stripes that we create, or a lot of designs that we create, the stripes do go in the gas tank. So this is a little helpful hint for gas tank applications, or just to make sure you're doing a nice clean finish on it, whether it's reflective or non-reflective. But this is a reflective application. And then he just slowly guides his hand through there just to make sure that he's getting it all released and no wrinkles are happening. Sometimes it does help just to heat up the vinyl a little bit to make it a little bit more applicable, but you just want to almost kiss it with the heat. You do not want to heat it up too much and warp the vinyl, because then it won't line up, just like you can see how Adam's lines are lining up almost perfectly. And now he's just sealing each edge just to make sure it's sealed. Here's where he's making the relief cut on the between the cab and the bed. I would recommend using a straight edge if you want to just make sure that it's perfect. Again, Adam's got a nice steady hand. He's done this for several applications. And all he did was kind of trim it right in the middle of that seam, and now he's just kind of finishing it interior between the bed and the cab. And you can see how he's using his thumb. It's really because of the contour of that edge. He doesn't want to use a squeegee, because the squeegee is going to give you a little bit of air gaps, where his thumb is, again, just another tool, and he's just kind of sealing that edge around that bend, because it is such a sharp 90-degree bend. And then he just peels off the pre-mask, and he'll go over his finger once again just to kind of, again, assure that the seal is down. When trimming to the doors, you always want to trim to the actual door where it's going to open up, and then you can work in the excess to the actual vehicle part. Some people like to actually wrap extra material in there. It's not necessary. How we've done this for several years is just by finishing it in those grooves, and it gives you enough so that you don't have to worry about the graphic peeling up. And here he's showing you how he's cutting around the door handle. And again, this is called like a relief cut. So you cut to the edge of the part that you're going to want to remove, and then you work the vinyl in. So he's making a couple slow cuts, working the vinyl in. That's a better angle for it right there. You can see him cutting it right to that edge, and then he'll work the rest of the vinyl in, pull that off, and then you have a nice clean finish. And you can see Adam made that little cut there between the front door and the fender because what he wanted to do was open up the door and finish it. Obviously, if you open up the door before you make that relief cut, you're going to bend the vinyl. So you just want to make sure before you open up any doors or do any of that you make those relief cuts, and then you can kind of go back and just finish the edges and whatnot and seal them. And again, he's just sealing it with a simple use of his fingers, and that is definitely enough because you do want to let the graphics sit on the vehicle without washing it, without doing anything to it for at least 7 to 10 days, and that just allows the adhesive to adhere to the vehicle, and then you can go and hand wash it and whatnot after that. And he's just going back and just sealing each edge and just kind of making sure he's going over that. Sealing the edge is very important, especially if you're going to go through a car wash or wash the vehicle. You want to make sure no water gets behind the vinyl. And then he'll go up to the front and finish that as well. And by doing those cuts beforehand, like Adam did at the very beginning of the video, it just makes for an easier application. That way all the trimming is done beforehand. It does take a little extra time, but if you're working on a truck like this, one of the old Dodge Durangos, or any vehicle that's got those wheel wells, it is just, it's just helpful to make those pre-cuts. And again, he's using his technique of where he'd already done the measurements, the taped up in the right spot, and then he just kind of peels it, leaving that tape as a kind of a guide to go back to, and then applying the decal. Always working from the inside out to release all the air. Now he's going to go back and apply that small quarter panel piece that he did. Again, using those tape marks as a guide. Tack it in place very lightly, start from the inside out, and work out all the air. And just like Adam did on the door handles, he'll trim out that little edge on the tail light. Again, just giving the overall design a nice clean finish on the vehicle. You do want to make sure you're using a very sharp, hopefully a new blade when you're cutting these. It just makes it a little bit easier. That way you don't want to have any tears in the vinyl or anything like that too. But obviously a new blade would be helpful, or just a sharp utility knife will work as well. And then peel off the pre-mask to see the finished product. You can remove those 4x4 logos beforehand. This was one of our employee vehicles, which is why we left it on there. But you can also remove that if you want it for easier application.